Hello and welcome to Tax Matters. I'm Chamaka Ohauchi. Baraka the Salah to all our Muslim compatriots across Nigeria and across the world. We thank God for keeping us safe to witness yet another Eid el-Kabir. We remain available for our chunks of meat. It's a Salah period. Offices are closed, but in this day and age of digitalization, businesses are not closed. What with the emergence of digitalization, you can buy and sell online. Money can be transferred and received. Orders can be made and orders delivered at the other end. Everywhere you go, there are POS cash sending and receiving kiosks. Businesses are no longer built on the SY brick and mortar model. And so whether you are in Abuja or in Lagos or in Kano or you are back in your village at this period, it is business as usual. And that brings us back to the theme of the 24th Annual Tax Conference: Global Disruption, Taxation and Digitalization, Implications for Socio-Economic Development. The 24th Annual Tax Conference held from Tuesday 17th to Friday 20th of May 2022. So far, we have dedicated 2 episodes to the 3-day event. Ardent viewers of Tax Matters will readily remember our feature of the erudite presentation of the main paper by Mr. Aibode Aimokede of the Access Bank fame. Viewers will also recall the 8th Annual National Tax Quiz Competition, which we also featured. In revisiting the story of the 24th Annual Tax Conference, we want to look at paper 2, which was on re-engineering Nigeria's tax system, implications for taxpayers and tax administration, delivered by Mr. Dick Iri, Coordinating Director, Compliance Support Group, on behalf of the Executive Chairman FIRS, Mr. Muhammad Nami. Chairman of session was Mr. Mark Anthony Dike, past president of the CITN. But before we bring you the excerpts from that paper and the panel discussion that followed it, we want to share with you some of what the conference participants had to say about their experiences at the 24th Annual Tax Conference. Again, before that, and still talking about Salah, Salah is the season of giving. In that spirit, the FIRS has magnanimously extended filing and payment of companies' income tax for filers whose filing date was supposed to be the 30th of June 2022. Such filers have been given a 2-month extension, meaning that they now have up till the 31st of August to file and pay due companies' income tax on their operations in the year of assessment 2021.
I'm a very busy man. My business involves a lot of traveling and I interface with lots and lots of people and organizations. Tax compliance used to be a big drag on my business. It was time-consuming and very costly. But now, no more. Introducing the FIRS Tax Pro Max, the truly fully end-to-end tax administration solution for companies' income tax, value-added tax, petroleum profits tax, and all other tax types. For fast, efficient, and convenient end-to-end tax experience, log on to www.taxpromax.firs.gov.ng. Tax Pro Max has turned things around for me. It is fast, user-friendly, and cost-effective. FIRS, making tax administration as easy as ABC.
Now to the interviews. We'll begin with the interview conducted with the former Executive Chairman FIRS, Mrs. Ifweko Omoigwe Okaro. The interview succinctly sets the tone for what this episode is all about.
You spoke on the tax to GDP ratio of Nigeria, and now we seem not to be getting everything into the tunnel. What do you think needs to be done?
What I did say, first of all, in looking at the tax to GDP ratio, the context is that we use that ratio to determine how well we are prepared, is the way I would look at it, for the development of our country. Because no government anywhere in the world, and even if you look at our traditional societies, the traditional government can succeed without raising funds, because funds help you do the things you need to do for the community, helps you to do the things for your citizens, for your residents. And if the tax to GDP ratio is low, and we're at 6%, and the minimum, having done all the research, is at a 15% level. It shows that we still have a long way to go in even getting to the minimum. And if you add to that the fact that we're likely to be the third most populous country, by 2050. Every year we're adding about 7.5 million people, net 5.9 million people. The infrastructure is not there. It's definitely a ratio to track. Now, in looking at that ratio, though, there's this sense that, Nigeria is so low, way behind because we are 6%. But one of the things I did say was that always check your data. And when you look at tax to GDP, you're asking yourself, you're saying tax revenues, but tax revenues as recorded by government. Now, if you flip it and ask the taxpayer, these revenues that are recorded by government, is this what you are paying? There's going to be a massive disconnect between what the taxpayers are paying. And what is a tax? A tax is any charge imposed by government, wherever the government is, whether it's local government, state government, federal government, what you pay out of your pocket to even contribute to your environment, whether it's the money you are paying to the local governments, those in the car parks, transport unions, whether it's the money you pay to your state government, charges, fees, whatever you call it, personal income tax that is delegated to the state or the federal level, whether it's to the Federal Inland Revenue Service or to customs or to wherever, you'll find that there's a disconnect. And so if there's a disconnect, there's a hole somewhere. There's a hole somewhere, and we need to capture that. What is going out that is not recorded has to be on the table for us to even mobilize revenue. For me, that's the very first step. Let us know what we are actually collecting. So you do that. So all the illegal collectors, you close that. But do not ever, and that should be our mantra, do not ever tamper with the tax or the revenues that are generated for government, because the purpose of government is to act on behalf of the people. The people in government are not to act for themselves. They are to act on behalf of the people. We need to keep putting that down and spreading that message. And in doing that, you now get a pot. And in that pot, you now distribute that all citizens can benefit from. Education, healthcare, power. We are nowhere near the kinds of funding that we need to drive that. Then there's the other aspect of you now grow the revenue. But you grow the revenue also by using technology. This conference theme is so apt about disruptive technology. And believe me, what is a disruptive technology? I like Ike's explanation. It's about radically changing our mindsets, changing the way we think, and using technology to be more efficient, more productive. Nigeria is in dire need of several disruptive technologies. Wherever we are, let the message to all of us be, how can we make it work? And technology, the angle of technology, the depth of technology, the veracity of technology, the diversity of technology gives us that opportunity. And with that, there's nothing that we cannot do.
Now to the organizers. Mrs. Ruth Arokoyo is the Chairman Planning Committee of the 24th Annual Tax Conference.
Congratulations on a successful 24th Annual Tax Conference. Now, looking at the outcome, the turnout and the proceedings, will you say that your expectations, the expectations you have for this Annual Tax Conference were met?
Yes, we thank God for the turnout. We had large numbers. I know we are not less than 1,700 that attended this conference. So on that, I can say that my expectations were met. And you can see that the participants, yesterday they sat down throughout. It means that the topics that we have chosen, they enjoyed it. All our paper presenters turned out. The discussants, they turned out. We did not have any disappointment.
So what are your takeaways from this conference?
My takeaway from this conference is that we don't have a hiding place. Nigeria must run with the digital space. And for us to move forward in this century, we have to embrace technology.
My takeaway is that we've been challenged as an institute. So what it means is that we should now begin to train our members on how to tax digital currency, the informal sector, and we should be able to train our practitioners also on this. In addition, we need to start collaborating. We have been collaborating with the tax authorities. We need to increase it, and we also need to begin to sensitize the public on the need to pay their taxes as and at when due.
My takeaway has to do with in the area of cryptocurrency. The world has gone beyond the mortar and brick war. From this conference, we need to quickly go into real work to speed what we have in place to make sure that the government, particularly the various revenue offices, will be able to get revenue from what is happening in the cloud. We owe this country that responsibility. We are not just going to criticize the government. We are going to provide solutions. We are going to give them the enabling information as to what to do. So I assure you, from this time going forward, there will be a lot of training in the aspect of cryptocurrency and the cloud.
How can we block the leakages in our tax system?
A lot of solutions were provided during this conference. One is digitalization, which is the main theme of the conference. Once you eliminate some of the human interactions and you put technology into it, it will filter away fraud and those leakages. It's a principal way of making sure that leakages are blocked in any system, not just in tax administration, but in any system. But much more important to the taxpayer is adequate and proper usage, judicial usage of tax revenue. You can't collect taxes from everybody across the country, and we are hearing of fraud every time you wake up. New day, new cases of fraud. That is not good for the psychology of those people who are making the payment. So the government on its side, while we do our own, that has to do with advocacy, the government must be sure that they make judicial use of money.
What actions are you going to take to ensure that all these notes or all this topic and all this suggestions that were made will be effectively implemented?
Let me start by acknowledging the fact that every speaker, every resource person today acknowledge the fact that we are just not there. That there is a gap between where the world is and where we are. And when you have such gap, what do? You close the gap. Now, we have a challenge that borders on the team itself. We are talking about global disruption. The global disruption is evident. We can see it in everything we do. Then secondly, taxation is something that has become very germane and very critical to our development. And I made mention of something while we are talking about the closing ceremony. We are currently about 209 million or more. And we are going to head up to about 400 and something million in less than 30 years' time. If that is the case, then we have a challenge. And what is that challenge? The challenge is what quality of human resources are we going to be having in 29 years' time? As of today, the challenge is that half of our population requires reskilling, requires upskilling. And even those who are educated are not getting the right type of education. And we are talking about tax as a basis for development. So we are aware we cannot do this without technology. We cannot do this without understanding the impact of digitalization, which is changing of the system as it is. And so therefore, we have agreed, even as an institute, that this is something we must start focusing on. From day one, we need to start talking about the impact of technology on how we relate with each other. You can see it in terms of our Twitter, in terms of our WhatsApp. You see that our relationship model is changing right before our very eyes. Some of us, we are closer to our phone than we are even closer to some human beings. So it is clear that tax cannot be an exception to the rule. We need to change the dynamics of how we reason. So we have agreed on that as an institute, that we must start focusing on technology as number one, technology as number two, and technology as number three.
Mrs. Okaru spoke about holes in the collection system and about illegal collections. These issues came up in our conversations with some of the conference delegates.
What's your takeaway from this 24th Annual Tax Conference of the CITN?
Digitalization has brought a lot of disruption in the way things are being done. And as an economy and a system that wants to thrive. So we are also being advised to prepare and key in accordingly.
It's been an interesting one, very educative, interactive. I think it's a job well done.
So how do we block leakages in our tax system?
We need to open up our digital channels. It's obvious that as a nation, we cannot do without taxation. We need the much needed revenue that we are either to be getting from oil and gas might not come the way it is, we expected it to be. But we have something we've not tapped so much as a nation, and that's taxation. It's high time that every corporate organization and individual, their digital identity is enhanced such that before you do anything with the government, well, organizations have tax identification already, individuals too should have payee. Let that be the primary thing for each eligible taxpayer for whatever they need to do, such that data we have here and there, we synchronize it. This will block leakages in our tax system. And of course, there also need to be the part of accountability on government, from government. People need to know that what you are contributing, this is what we are doing with it, so that there will not be apathy on the part of taxpayers.
How do we move the Nigerian tax system forward?
A lot can be done, but primarily we need to focus on the regulators. They need to do more. Like one of the presenters actually rightly mentioned this morning, that we need to look at the way how taxes will be collected, then how taxes will be spent. People should be accountable. Then the issue of multiple taxation has to be addressed.
What are your takeaways from this 24th Annual Tax Conference?
There has been a lot of takeaway. Knowledge has been built, capacity has been strengthened, and I can believe all the tax administrators, tax practitioners will be able to go back to deploy the knowledge that has been garnered towards bringing in efficiency and effectiveness in the way they do their job.
Now let's look at our Nigerian tax system. We have leakages. What do you think can be done to block those leakages?
Thank you. I will simply say we must have the political will, especially from our leaders. Recent happenings now, 23 election, you see a lot of people coming in, throwing their hat into the ring. They want to contest election. But what is our experience in the respective tax stations, tax offices in the states? People are not paying their taxes. Even the politicians, even presidential candidates, they are not paying their taxes. And when you even ask, okay, let me see your tax license certificate, they'll be running running from one state to the other. They want to obtain tax license certificate. I think what we should do is that we should make it mandatory that before you contest for any election, you must provide your tax clearance certificate as and when due. That is, for 3 years ago, you must pay to reflect the date of that 3 years ago. For last year, it must reflect that of last year. For this year, it must reflect that of this year. By so doing, people will be used to it. Because if the head is bad, it will flow down, and that will be too bad for us. So our leaders who are going there, who will be spending this money from taxation for economic development as a revenue, they must be able to show that leadership by ensuring that they too are paying their taxes as and when due. But when you see people, they are not paying. When it comes to election, they rush to tax offices, they want to collect their taxes, they want to pay just a meager amount. And even when you consider the amount that they are now paying to even collect forms, it is humongous. So if you are paying about 100 million to collect tax, how much tax have you paid on that 100 million naira? This is food for thought for us.
As you can see, it was a fulfilling experience for attendees of the 24th Annual Tax Conference, which was actually held both physically and virtually. Now to the paper of the Executive Chairman FIRS. Mr. Iri began with a critical look at the word or concept, if you like, of re-engineering.
What does it mean to us when we say re-engineering? To some, it could be the process of changing or improving the way organizations do things. To some others, it could be maybe a bit of rejigging the way things are done and introduce either innovation or new ways of doing things. But in this context, introduce the use of technology to ride with the wind of the digital space that we find ourselves today. Let's remind ourselves of what we have now, that is as it is, as is. That's the traditional economy. What are the characteristics of this traditional economy? It is physical, it is something you can feel, something you can touch, and something that you can see with your eyes. Either in production, from production it moves to whatever, either distribution, marketing, or consumption. In whatever way, it's something that you can feel and drive physically. In the traditional economy, how is taxation done? We have physical offices that administer the traditional economy. We have invaders that we need to pursue or run after.
Fast forward to the present.
All over the globe, e-business and digital enterprises are the ones that you see all over the place. The digital economy has changed the way we need to do things. What are the tax policy objectives in addressing the re-engineering the tax system? We have four main objectives. We need to address the nexus and profit allocation challenge. 2, increase in VAT collection is one area that we need to also address. So we need to come up with solutions to address VAT collection. 3, we need to improve international collaboration. And 4, 100% automation of tax processes and procedure to increase transparency, efficiency, effectiveness, and ease of compliance.
The paper was discussed by a panel of 3 discussants.
We must embrace the digital economy. It's one space that is growing in Nigeria. There is no doubt about that. If you look at the report by Statista on the social media usage in Nigeria, over 32 million Nigerians use social media, whether it is WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, you name it. Nigerians are there. 32 million is not a small number. That's more than the population of Ghana.
I'll speak to 5 broad areas where I think we should re-engineer the Nigeria's tax system. Number 1 is what we collect. Number 2, we need to re-engineer how we collect. What we should do is to harmonize, and we should not be allowing non-state actors to collect taxes and pretend like government is helpless. Number 3, we must re-engineer who we collect taxes from. We are punishing the poor people that are vulnerable. Number 4, we need to re-engineer how we spend the taxes that we collect. And it's not too much to ask to say, when you do collect the money from us, spend it wisely. Last one I want to talk to you about is we need to re-engineer how we report and account for the taxes we collect, how we spend it to the people. That's the only way we can build trust.
A holistic tax reform is one that is targeted at achieving sustainable development, not merely by broadening the tax base, but by strengthening it through implementation of policies that empower local businesses in a manner that enables them to generate jobs and attract investment. Policy, legislation, and administration will be successful only when the taxpayer has the capacity and resources to generate revenue. We as taxpayers must also recognize our role in the reform, which is to promote accountability whilst demonstrating integrity in paying our taxes.
We do hope that you had an exciting time on today's episode of Tax Matters. Thank you for watching. See you next week.